Massive game this weekend. You know, the history and rivalry there between Queensland and New South Wales in any sport, to be honest, is something that we all look forward to.
The boys have an extra spring in their step this week preparing for it?
Yeah, they've been jumping all around the place. Coming off the bye last week, we had a chance to really freshen up mentally and physically, and then come in on Monday and they've trained exceptionally well.
Stable looking side with just one change, just Steve coming in.
They're good to play, sort of back-to-back games with some continuity in selections. We're obviously very happy with the win against the Kings. Areas we can get better at, definitely, but the ability to build on combinations is something that this stage of the year is going to be very important.
I guess here with the criticism of Australian rugby overall over the last little while, how important is it for these two Aussie sides to put in good performances?
Oh, listen, it's important we put in a good performance and win. It's a massive game on the calendar for us every year, and only playing New South Wales once this year, it's the only chance to beat the enemy.
You've made some significant changes on the bench to presumably to get a bit more impact from the bench. What do you like about Leroy Houston, and what he might bring to a feisty night out?
Leroy, he's hungry. He's hungry for opportunity. He was going to play against the Jaguars, and unfortunately, he got a finger in the eye and ruled him out for the next 5 or 6 weeks. So, he trained exceptionally hard through the off season. You've only got to look at Leroy and see what sort of physical shape he's in compared to how he was years ago, and it's a credit to him how hard he's worked through that period of time. And you want to see guys that work hard get opportunities, and bringing in someone who's a veteran, has played in these games before, knows how tough they're going to be, is going to be very good for us.
Someone like Campbell Magnay, like he's only played 40 minutes in half a year, so you obviously have a high rap on him to sort of magic carpet him into the
Don't magic carpet him. You like big, tall, red-headed blokes, don't you, Jimmy? So, no, listen, Campbell's a very good footballer. He's got a big frame on him. He's a very athletic footballer, and he plays with a lot of aggression, and that's what you need in these interstate games. It's been a frustrating sort of 6-8 months for him because, he was really hoping to get over a few injury problems that he's had early in his career, and he wanted to be starting for the first game against the Sharks. Unfortunately, just picked up that hip injury just before the start of the season, and he's kept his head down. He's worked hard in the gym, and I reckon in his short career so far he's played some big games for us, and you want those guys stepping up and playing big games in interstate battles.
Stilesy, for just on Leroy again, it's a bit tough for him, given like last year when he first signed, Higgins hadn't signed, so he probably thought the picture was going to be a little bit more open for him. And then, like you said, since he's been training, there's a couple of injuries, this and that. Things haven't quite settled for him.
Frustrating times for him, definitely. But I hadn't worked that much with Leroy at all, and boy, he impressed me through that period of time. Once we did sign Higgins, and then with the injuries, and we didn't pick him at the start of the year, he kept his head down, and you wouldn't have known that he was sulking or upset, disappointed. He kept on setting a really good example for the non-starting guys, how hard you've got to train, how hard you've got to work. So I really hope he comes off the bench and has a big game, because I reckon he's earned that.
So here you speak a lot about how this is no ordinary game. Obviously you've played for Queensland, Darryl Gibson hasn't played for New South Wales, and he hasn't sort of said anything along those lines. Do you think that's a reason why it means more to you than it looks like it means to you?
Oh, I can tell you now, it means a lot to him this weekend. Gibbo, he's played for Crusaders, so he's played in some pretty big, rivalry games in New Zealand through his career. So he'd understand the importance of this rivalry. And listen, we've spoken about it a little bit. We haven't driven it too much, through the press, because at the end of the day, we've got to front up on Saturday and play like it means something to us.
Considering this game's probably one that the casual fan tunes into out of any others, is it a consideration for you guys to play a more entertaining style? These games can often be a bit of a drag down, tight affair. Is that a consideration, or you
We want to win the football game, and the way we're trying to play is definitely more of an expansive game. You've only got to look at the Kings. I think that's the most amount of points we've scored in a game since 2011. So, it's definitely, we want to play an exciting brand of football, but we also want to play some really tough football. Queensland traditionally, in its heyday was built around a forward pack that was absolutely abrasive. You had a good 10 that could play field position, but then you had exciting backs that could take really good opportunities when they're presented, and that's the brand of football we're trying to get to. Bringing Stephen back in after, he had the game off against the Kings, sort of just had a look at, for the rest of the season, how we handled the captaincy. When we brought Stephen up here, we're really adamant that he was here to play his best football, but then to help us cultivate and develop the next leaders for this club. When James Slipper went down with injury, we were on tour, and we just probably felt at that point in time it was the best thing to do, just to keep Stephen, to install Stephen as captain for the rest of that tour. And then, Samu Karevi, I think, is someone who could be a long-term leader for this club. His attributes, he's extremely hardworking, he's well respected within the group, and he's really growing in confidence around his leadership style and has such a presence, in particular with all the Polynesian football players that we have in the group, and you just see them all lift playing behind him as well. So, Stephen's excited about being able to, help Samu grow for the rest of the season, and it was just the best thing we felt for the club.
Just regarding the change of the locks, Stylesy, is Isaac just in better nick than Kane at the moment, or are you trying to rotate them a little bit?
No, unfortunate for Kane. Kane's got a very long career with a lot of highlights in that career, World Cup finals, Super Rugby titles, but it's just probably in the position at the moment we're in that we've got a very competitive second row, and he's probably just been off his best a little bit over the last few weeks, and with Isaac coming back in, you've all seen how well he's played this year, and I just felt that was picking the form locks was going to be important for us, and that's why we put Isaac on the bench instead of Kane.
Have you spoken to Kane about what is exactly you think he's not bringing to the table that Isaac's bringing?
Yeah, mate, speaking to the players all the time, definitely. Kane, it's good, not good, but when you speak to those senior players and you're telling them that their form's just off a little bit or they're being dropped, they've been around long enough to know exactly where their form's at as well. And when I spoke to Kane, before the Kings game, he was very aware of his performances. Probably just felt that he's been a little bit off in training as well, and that's been transferring into the game for him. I'm pretty sure Michael Checker reinforced those points to him when they went into Wallabies camp down in Canberra as well.
Stephen, you've had a couple of weeks off, and what's your huge motivation for this game, and what does playing New South Wales mean to you?
Oh, look, I think it was nice to have that time to be able to do some good training last week, and basically had that 2-week block to train and prepare for this game. So, I think it's an important game for both teams. If you look at the table and both teams' seasons so far, this is a key game. So, aside from the rivalry, I think that it's an important game. Whoever can get a result here sort of sets up the next block of games.
It's been a long time since you've played New South Wales. What are your memories when you were coming through the system the first time of playing New South Wales?
Oh, look, I think similar to what's been said this week. It is a game that guys here live for, and I'm sure it's the same on the other side. And having been in Canberra for the last 8 years, I know it's just as big down there, this game. So, there is something good about these local derbies, but what we need to make sure now is that the performance matches all the talk during the week.
Who's been doing the talking this week? Has it been you?
Oh, look, the game goes for. Oh, you mean internally?
In terms of
I think,
chatting about playing New South Wales.
I think everyone's aware of it. Stylesy's been, I guess, educating some of the boys that haven't been involved in these games, and I think it's important for the players that have played to lead the way in terms of the intensity of training and making sure our preparation isn't clouded by a lot of the noise around the game. So sometimes you can get caught up in these weeks in all a lot of the hype, and I know we have to talk about it for the week, but it's the 80-minute game that's the key, and we need to be well prepared for that.
What were your thoughts when Stiles said he wanted to keep Samuel on as captain? Were you happy with that decision?
Yeah, I think so. We discussed it, and I was very keen for that to happen. And I think it's the best outcome for the club. And look, I think I said early in the season, we need to start developing more leaders in Australian rugby, and the Reds are no different. So, my role is to help Samu now as much as I can, and he's been, really good around that. And I think he's got the right characteristics to be a really good captain for the club, and he's starting to learn about what it all means. And I think he enjoys it, and that's part of it as well. So, look, I'll give him all the help I can to make sure he does well.
It would seem from the outside that you might have suggested the captaincy for Queensland wasn't really what I came to Queensland for, and that you might have prompted the decision yourself. Is that accurate or not?
Oh, look, I think, I thought it was the best way for the team to go forward. I think that if you look at the way the club can grow over the next few years, having a guy who's 34, just taking over the captaincy, I think maybe there's not the best option. So the fact that, I observed Samu and Stolesy did as well, and he showed over the last few years he's got those capabilities, and he's done it really well. And as Stolesy said, he's a well-respected member of the group, and he's starting now to learn what it's all about, and play regularly for Australia, and he has a lot of respect within the team. So I think when you look at all that, then there's a good opportunity now for him to learn over the rest of the season, because part of leadership is learning on the job as well. You can do all you want to prepare, but you need to learn on the job.
What kind of leader is he?
I think at the moment, he's definitely a guy who leads by the way he plays. He's a key player for us on the field, and the way he plays, there's a lot of involvement in the game, and he's got good chat out in the field. So he's always, someone that the other players look to for voice out in the field, and I think the way he plays, if he plays well, the guys around him tend to play well. So, that's key for him at the moment, and then he'll learn some of the other things around that, decision making on the field and that sort of stuff.
Does he need to be more chatty during the week as opposed to just on game day?
No, he's really good during the week. He's always been a guy that comes in and has lots of buzz and plenty of energy around the boys. So that's always been a good quality.
You think in the future it's like a long-term leaders announced that season launch to be captain of the Reds or another club one day?
Oh, look, mate, I'm not too sure about that. I don't want to forecast anything like that. I just think this is a good opportunity for him now to learn over the next, however many games are left in the season, and to really work on that part of his game. It was obviously unfortunate that we lost Slips so early in the season, and he was doing a fine job there. So, you need to consider that as well.
Has it been like a bit of a reminder for you to be back in Queensland after so long, to be playing New South Wales in a week like this, and see that apparently Stilesy's put scores up around the club, stuck things on windows, like to be in a Queensland camp against New South Wales the first time in a while, I'm guessing, for you?
Yeah, I guess you do remember those games that you're playing and how important they are for everyone. And I think not just for the players, but we have an opportunity to change the way our fans feel, and our supporters around the traps. When you go to clubs around Brisbane and they're happy about when we do well, they're happy. So that's got to be a motivation for players, and I know for me it is. I like to see our fans happy and enjoying what we do. So I want them to be proud of how we play, and this is a big part of that this weekend.
You mentioned the hype around this game. Do you feel it's as big as it was in previous years, or has it died down a little?
I would say from watching from afar, it probably had died down a little bit. And that was maybe because I wasn't in the environment and I was focused on other things. But I think there's probably been a conscious effort, not to talk it up too much, but for Stolesy to just make aware what the game is about, and a bit about the history of the game. It goes back a long way, this game, Queensland, New South Wales, in any sport. So it's important that guys understand that there is that long history, and we've got a bunch of the older players coming in today for lunch, and I'm sure they'll share some stories about their experience in this game.